All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back from the break. We are 2 months away from the start of the NFL season. We are roughly 3 months away from the start of the NHL season and about 3.5 months away from the NBA season. So we've certainly got a lot coming up here. As the summer months begin to wane on and we move into the heavy heat and hot humidity that we know all too well in the Midwest, we'll hopefully be adding a lot of things to Research Fantasy. We just launched our first premium product, our CFL product, just $5 a week. More or less, hey, I'm building models. I'm working things out. We're putting together projection sets. But ultimately, we don't want to put anything out unless we are extremely confident that the information we are giving you will be an advantage to you. So, CFL first. Probably the next thing after that could end up being the WNBA. And I would probably say either NASCAR or PGA after that. But we will offer something for the NFL next year as well. Anyway, I've said a lot of words. 0 of them have had to do with baseball, so let's get back on track here. Let's also mention that I think Monday I'm going to just start a general DFS podcast, probably somewhere in the vein of 15 to 30 minutes a day. Hopefully I'll be able to bring in some people in the DFS sphere to get them to talk, but it'll just be a brief talk about what's going on in the industry mixed with a little bit of conversation on the slates going on, and I think that'll be the first podcast that we really push heavily. I'm really excited for it. Don't know if we're going to do it on video. It might just be an audio podcast, but we'll see. Nonetheless, let's talk baseball. After a 4-day break, 5-day break, whatever it might have been, I actually took Sunday off as well. So, almost a week's time since I've played baseball. It's good to be able to sit back and refresh. Honestly, the first half of the season was not very good for me. Baseball, I'll admit, is just, of all the sports, probably my weakest. A lot of variance, and the problem can be, just like with hitters and pitchers, if you're on the wrong side of the variance more often than not, your stats aren't going to look great. And it hasn't been a bloodbath. I mean, we're talking about a mere amount of dollars between the plus or the minus, but as much time as we put into our research, you want it to be in the plus. So hopefully, like guys such as Manny Machado, Kyle Schwarber, we could take those first half woes, turn them into second half victories, and ultimately we can all make money together. And that's not to say that our picks here haven't been good, because if you look back as a whole, they have been. It's just 3 hitters doesn't quite get the job done. It doesn't take you all the way there. So this slate breaks down pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see how things come together. Couple of people I want to take advantage of tonight. Let's start things off with, I love taking advantage of Garrett Cole, man. I really do. And look, he has periods where he's very good. He is a slightly above average pitcher, but I will say this again and again and again, and you'll watch it happen. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen tonight. The dude is just a mental midget. When one little thing goes wrong, he takes that one little thing and manages to extrapolate it and create 15 little things and 5 big things that go wrong. The Cardinals are no slouch. They're not the greatest team, but they're no slouch. Matt Carpenter sitting at 7,500, 3,800 on Fantasy Draft, 3,800 on FanDuel, 3,800 on DraftKings. Cole's 367 WOBA, 35.9% fly ball rate, 21.7% home run to fly ball ratio, and 42.1% hard contact against lefties. That really makes you want to look long and hard at Matt Carpenter and that price tag, because really on both sites it's highly affordable. So Carpenter is going to be a guy I want to have some exposure to in my tournament lineups tonight. Next up, let's go with Robinson Cano, 8K on Fantasy Draft, 3,200 on FanDuel. That is a steal. 4,200 on DraftKings. James Shields, now the ace of the Chicago White Sox organization. Not quite sure if that's for real or not. If you look at the numbers, he's actually improving somewhat against righties this year, but against lefties is still no bueno. 430 WOBA, 57.9% fly ball rate. 57.9% fly ball rate. 21.2% home run to fly ball ratio. 32% hard contact. Not a high K guy. So, I mean, you got to think about it. Of all the balls put into contact, over half of them are in the air. Against lefties. Out of all balls put into contact in the air, over 20% of them are home runs. So theoretically, we're talking about a situation here where 10% of contact made by left-handed hitters could very well turn into a home run. I'm sorry, Robinson Cano just far too cheap. Guys like Kyle Seager right there with him. I have to have exposure to these guys tonight. I think they're in a good position, so let's roll them out. Probably my favorite play of the night, and it's not something that I've said at all this year. In fact, I don't think Domingo Santana at 9,200 on Fantasy Draft, 3,900 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings, I don't think one time this year he's made it into any kind of breakdown of ours, and it is kind of a crying shame. You know, at the end of the day, you definitely wish that it was a situation where you had more. I wish I had more exposure to Domingo Santana. He's had a pretty good year for what he is. The price isn't very high. Yes, on DraftKings it's definitely approaching that. But the guy's got 15 home runs. He's trending toward a 300 batting average. And I know, it's not a big deal. But batting average, even though it's not a predictor, it shows that he's getting on base. He's doing something that's positive. He's scoring fantasy points. I mean, that's an indicator of that. If you're batting 100, you probably haven't been too good unless you're batting 100 and have hit 30 home runs, which really isn't happening too much. Nick Pivetta has shown some signs of progress at times. And this is a lefty-heavy team when you're looking at the power structure. You've got Thames, you've got Shaw, even Jonathan Villar a little bit. So there's definitely some bats on the left-hand side of the plate that we would typically look at in a situation like this and say, ready, set, go, this is what you want to do. But against righties, Nick Pivetta, 415 WOBA, 46.5% fly ball rate, 27.5% home run to fly ball ratio, almost 40% hard contact. How can you not love guys like Domingo Santana, Orlando Arcia at a really cheap price? I think that this is going to be a route that we want to go tonight, and he's going to be one of my favorite options. Probably will have my highest ownership. Once again, our three favorite tournament options: Matt Carpenter, Robinson Cano, Domingo Santana. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Check us out at researchfantasy.com. Join our growing user community. Like us on Facebook at Research Fantasy. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again tomorrow.